Hi, everybody. Welcome to Truth Wanted, the call-in show where we get to the truth one call at a time, whether it's supernatural, spiritual, pseudoscientific, or something completely out there. We want to hear it. So grab your phone because the show is starting right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Truth Wanted. I am your host, Objectively Dan. This is the live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time. We talk to people about what they believe and why. And if you'd like to call us, you should do it because we're live, and you can do that. The number is 512-991-9242, or you can call through your computer at tiny.cc/calltw. Truth Wanted is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And every single week, we always try to have a special guest. This week is no different. I have Christina Carol joining me today. Christina, welcome to Truth Wanted.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm
It's
doing
so
fantastic.
good to be here. I'm so excited.
I'm so glad that you're here today. You came to us in recommendation with Thinker, who was just with us. So go check out that episode. Thinker's been on the show before, but she told us about you, and now we get to talk to you on this show. So thanks so much for joining us, Christina. If you could describe yourself and what you do online, how would you do it?
I'm just a girl that asks questions. I'm like, I'm just a girl, right? But
I'm just a girl. I love that too. I mean, that's fine.
I started asking questions to believers as I started publicly deconstructing. So what I do is I'll pose a prompt, and I encourage believers to come on up and discuss the prompt with me. Sometimes the conversations can get a little bit contentious, but we've definitely moved in a direction about trying to figure out how to move forward in our society, both as believers and non-believers.
Yeah, and so when you're live, you're primarily talking to folks on TikTok, right?
Right. Yeah. So we're on TikTok primarily for right now. We're looking to expand soon.
Nice. Yeah. And so you talk to folks, not just yourself, but you have a panel of folks that you're talking with.
I have an amazing panel of people who I trust, who have researched the scriptures, who know, we have people who have been studying Hebrew. Thinker, she's been studying Hebrew, and, we just have people who are knowledgeable in a lot of different areas, so that when guests come up, there's something for everyone to engage in. I might not be like a philosophy person, which I'm definitely not. But we have people like my good friend Mac, who is really able to engage in those types of calls as well. So it's exciting.
Yeah, the way you describe it almost sounds like the Pentagon, where it's like you got a council of people with different sort of military expertise ready to attack when needed. No, I know that you're not about that. I think you're probably similar to me in the sense that, like, I just like talking to people about what they think and why. And, like, you're also similar to me because you're a former Christian. You deconstructed from Christianity. Tell me about that a little bit.
So I'm deconstructing. I don't know if I'll ever be able to say that I'm fully deconstructed.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
I know that's I've deconstructed to the point where I can say, yes, I'm atheist. I don't believe in a God or gods. But I think, when it comes to religion, especially for me, Christianity, it's like Wagyu, right? So the fat runs throughout, and it's really challenging to pick those pieces out. So I have to look at my life now. I'm not just deconstructing text. I'm not just trying to figure out if this lines up with this, but I have to change now. I have to deconstruct Christina. I had to deconstruct how I perceive the world around me, because my lens up until 2018, 2019 was through the lens of Christianity, and it warped a lot of things, which really makes deconstructing challenging. And I think that's why a lot of people are more hesitant to do so.
I just need to tell the folks, because we were talking a little bit before the show, and you use the line, it's like Wagyu, and like the fat, and like that I was like, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, we need to stop this right here, because we need to continue this like on the show, because that is such a good metaphor. I've never heard that before, and I love that. But you're so right. Like, when I was Christian, like, it was everything to me, right? Like, I mean, like, it defined my identity, it defined my life purpose, it defined my moral beliefs. And so when you begin to doubt that whole structure, reason why it is called deconstruction is because it's not just one thing,
right.
And I say this all the time on the show, but when we talk to people, it should never be about oh, we're just building better arguments for the things that we already believe or don't believe. It's like it's way more than that. It's how
Right.
we live our lives, right?
Right.
It's not just a philosophical exercise in what we think
And
is true or not true, right?
right. It's how I raise my children. I
Hmm.
was raised to look at the world a certain way. I was raised to look at myself a certain way. And I had to determine, okay, like this is how I know how this impacted me. I don't want my children to look at the world this way. I don't want to tell them how to look at the world either.
Yeah.
I want to,
Yeah.
as their mom, I want to be able to be here and watch them evolve and grow, and just guide them in the ways to be good human beings, be respectful, be kind to others, be, be empathetic.
Hmm.
Having emotional intelligence is really important.
Right.
And
Right.
I just think that we're better off that way.
Absolutely. And that's an interesting thing too, because you as a parent, I've heard this from other folks who are parents who have also deconstructed or are deconstructing, as you put it, which is again great. I love the active verb there. It's
Mhm.
true because you're always still thinking stuff through. But it's like you have obviously your stance that you've just described is like I want my kids to be open. I'm going to be open minded to what my kids want or
Mhm.
think, and
Yeah.
that was just is that a response to how you were
Yes.
as a Christian? Because I think that's how it is from everybody that I hear, right? Because like I know when I was a Christian, my parents definitely had specific wants and desires for how I wanted to live
Yeah.
my life, right?
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
I'm not raising my children to fill it. Like we have the God of the gaps, right? We
Hmm.
fill God into the gaps. And then because we fill God into the gaps of our lives, we haven't fulfilled ourselves completely. So now we look to our children to fulfill those gaps. And I don't want
Yeah.
my children to be fulfilling gaps of mine. I want to live my life
Mm.
fully and allow them to live their lives fully.
Wow, that's a deep insight. Just as from a parenting perspective, because there definitely are parents that want to live vicariously through their children and want them
Yeah.
to do certain things because maybe they failed in a certain way or
Yeah.
they want to give them better opportunities than they have for something. It's like, but at the end of the day, your kid is their own person, right? And you
Yeah.
can't lead a horse to water, can't make him drink it, right? It's
Right.
like, yeah, for
It's
sure.
really exciting. Like when I was growing up, like I lived in a household where it was like do as you're told, right? You
Mm,
do as you're told, and there was an order. There's God, there's the father, and
right,
then mom, and then the kids.
right.
And I didn't, you know,
Hmm.
have a voice, so I just did what I was told. And so when people hear me interacting with my children, they're often shocked at how like articulate they are. They're able to express themselves emotionally. They can engage in conversations. Why? Because I want them to be fully immersed in the reality in which they live. And
Mm,
that does not include me giving them something that is not real to believe in. I need them to be fully present, fully here. And we
yeah.
work through those things. So, my children, they're 12 and 14. I love them so much. They're amazing. But they're critical thinkers, and sometimes they check me on my stuff. I'm like, I'm still deconstructing y'all.
Hang on.
Relax, I'm still deconstructing.
You guys got a head start on this. I had to figure this out a little later. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Wow, that's so interesting though, because like, there is a common criticism that Christians sort of bring to me, and I'm sure you've heard this as well, where it's like, well, even if this whole God thing isn't real, right, you're still bringing people structure to their lives, right? Like you're still sort of giving them something that they can have hope in or believe in or do in. But man, like I just think, what's the point if it's not real though, right? I don't know.
It's
Maybe
not
that's just
real.
me.
But here, and the thing is, I'm not trying to take anything from anyone.
Mm,
If
yeah,
my children grow and they subscribe to a religion that
yeah.
resonates with them, I'm not here to take that. But
Mm,
I'm a proponent of understanding why you believe what you believe.
right. You're building your own culture as a family,
Yeah.
right? And like they can take from that culture what they want, and then
Mhm.
they may not. They're their own people at the end of the day. I
Mhm.
think that's what scares people is oh, people can have a choice in all
It's
this. It used to
control.
be or control. Yeah, its own sense of control. And that's a hard thing to give to kids, I think, for some people because you want what's best for the kid, and you think sometimes they're making mistakes but like I don't know. That's how everybody lived their life, right? Everybody's got to
Yeah.
make their own choices.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like the
Mm.
kids, they have chores.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I'm the only one paying the bills in here, so take the trash out. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's not that.
Yeah.
This is very much so, like,
Well,
you know.
yeah.
But as far as I treat them like humans, I don't treat them like they're like I tell them like I gave birth to 2 humans, and I'm
Right.
just responsible for like helping them along. I'm not here to make them me.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. You're not like it's not a free for all, you
Right,
know, but
right.
like your values are set differently, right, than before,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
interesting. It's a good way to think about that. I think is just like, yeah, like you had these do's and don'ts when you grew up and stuff, and I had my own do's and don'ts, and I found out that some of those do's I should have done and
And
some
some
of
of
those
those
don'ts shouldn't have been don'ts, you know. So it's like I
right.
don't know. I don't know if anybody has it all figured out when it comes to parenting at the end of the day, but you know, it sounds like you're doing your best,
The
and
best I
that's all you can
can,
do,
and
right?
that's
Yeah.
all
So
you can do.
yeah.
Yep,
Well,
yep.
that's great. I love that. Back to the TikTok stuff and your conversations with people. How long have you been talking to people on TikTok now?
I wanna say it's been about 2 years now,
2 years,
going on
yeah.
2
And so
years. Yeah.
you're doing it every week. You're
Monday,
talking to
Wednesday, and
people.
Friday. So, yeah, Monday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, and Friday, 11:30 AM, we're on TikTok, and it's fun. It's always a good time. I'm so excited when it's time to go live and talk to people, and just, the conversations are always interesting.
Yeah. Tell
They're
me about that.
interesting
So
to
what kind of conversations? What's some of your favorites there that you're having?
again, like I love talking about like morality. I do because I feel like it's so simple, but it's not because morality
Mm,
is subjective, right?
yeah.
And when we're talking to believers, it's very staunch. They have very staunch positions, and a lot of it is based off of a subjective God. I'm just like
Mm.
your position's shaky because your God's kind of shaky. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But again, I go through stages in my deconstruction where like in the beginning I was just really sad and really broken by like the discovery of like my whole life being something that I wasn't prepared to come to grips that it wasn't real. And then I got angry.
Mm.
So I went through a bit of a phase where it's like conversations with me about certain topics were just not going to end well because
Yeah.
I have a stance on this and I'm pissed about the
Right.
outcome of what we
Right.
see because of it, right? Now I'm entering into a space where it's like I know we need to bridge the gap to move forward.
Yeah.
If we're going to survive as a society, we have to lock arms, and there's only one way to do that, and that's to stop the shouting
Mm.
and really have conversations where we're all like, okay, biases, put those over here, personal beliefs, put those over here. How do we move forward together
I love that.
before we destroy each other?
I love that. You know, and Christina, what you speak to, you've said some stuff that other people on the show have said was certainly true for me, which was, yeah, I was angry for a while, right? And that angry atheist phase, that's so real. That's so real. I can't explain it other than um, you know, when you realize the injustice of it all, it can just really get to you. I think that's how it was for me anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm with you where it's like, yeah, you know, now we can build bridges. Now we can figure out what's within my control and what's not within my control. And how can I make the world a better place out of it? Right.
Right.
So yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah, I had to like check myself on a few things because I would constantly harp on Christians about their lack of empathy.
Mm,
And when it came to, worshiping the God over the land instead of the people that are on the land. And I had to kind of look at myself and say, what empathy am I leading with when it comes to believers who are in the same space that I was once in? They believe the
mm-hmm.
same things that I once believed for whatever reason. So whether I think that their arguments are nonsense or whether I think that they're being disingenuous, I too very much so believed at one point everything that they believe, and I argued the same with the same, fervent passion that they do. So I have to humble myself in that regard and say, okay, we're talking to
Check
people.
yourself before you
I
wreck
have to talk
yourself. You
before
know?
you riggedy wreck yourself.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
allowed to say it. I said it.
You know, you're right though. I have to do that for myself too, because like if I don't, then well, I have to think about, okay, what's the point of me talking about this stuff, right? Because it's
Mhm.
like if it's not actually changing anybody's mind, or if nobody's going to do anything differently, then there's no point to me being mad.
In a
or being
journal.
upset or yelling or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Or being vitriolic. Even if I'm right, it's not
Right.
convincing, right?
Right.
And that's another thing I say all the time, which I wish people pick that more, which is like, you can build the most beautifully structured argument in the world and be absolutely correct, but if nobody's reading it, if nobody cares,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But if you bring it to a level where people care, I think that's how you can meet some folks in the middle, at
Right.
least.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we need to get to some callers here in a second. We got some folks
To
lined
it.
up that want to talk to us, and lines are open, folks. Still, if you want to talk to us, we have room for you. So come on in, and we'll get to talking to Christina. But before we get to calls, we got to talk about our question of the week. Every single week, we're asking you guys a question or a prompt, and we're gonna have Kelly come on board here to tell us about last week's question. Hello, Kelly. What's going on?
Hey, Dan, Christina, how you doing?
Hi, Kelly.
Good,
It's an
good,
honor
good.
to work with you, Christina, really, seriously. We got some really good answers this week. Our question last week was, if aliens landed tomorrow, who should we send as a tour guide? And here are our top 3 favorite answers. Number 3 from number 3, toy boat. I can't
There you go.
talk.
There you go. Get it
The tour
locked
guide
in.
for the aliens should be Sigourney Weaver. Experience handling movie aliens is better than none at all.
True. I like that reasoning.
I
Yeah.
got to agree with that. Number 2 from Job Fortuna. If aliens came to Earth tomorrow, who would be our tour guide? It would be David Attenborough. Which, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good
Here
choice.
is the American eating the hot dog on the side of the street. I love that. Yeah, that's a good one too.
And number 1 from our perennial answerer, Chuck Gatos, again, the tour guide for the aliens should be someone who knows a lot and will soon have nothing better to do, like a U.S. evolutionary biology teacher.
Oh, no. I hate it. I hate that that's real. But
yeah, right. I hate that that's real too.
U.S.
Really
evolutionary biology teacher?
Well, you're saying like for people who will soon not have much to do, right? Like saying like.
I love that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that was a good one. Really poignant. And our prompt for next week is, what is the best sci-fi religion and why? Dan, you have an answer?
I want to know your answer, Kelly, because I know you got one locked in.
You know what? I thought about this a lot, and I can only think of 2 of them really that I did right off the bat. And one was Dune, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of just like rehashed Islam.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the other was the Force in Star Wars, which is kind of just rehashed Taoism.
You read
right?
my mind. Those were literally my 2 answers.
Yeah.
So I have nothing to contribute to this conversation. Thank you, Kelly. I was gonna be like, yeah, the Force, right? Jediism and stuff. Yeah, okay, you got both. So I don't know.
I'm gonna go with the Force.
Yeah, I think so too. Christina, you got an answer for this one?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I can't. Like, I would be lying to say like I watched any of the Star Wars. Like, I would be telling a bull-faced lies. Same for Star Trek. Don't judge me. Like,
don't judge me.
I have no idea.
You're better for it. That's what an incredible thing in our culture where somebody has to be like, yeah, I don't watch Star Wars. Don't judge me for it. Instead of, yeah, because I'm not a huge fucking nerd, right? Like, amazing the turnaround on that. But yeah, I'm sure commenters, you guys have better answers than all of us. So leave a comment below, and we'll pick our best 3 next week. Until then, Kelly, thanks so much for coming on stage with us, and we'll see you later today.
Bye, Kelly.
See you later. So that's fun. Yeah, I'm like, this is a good one, I think, because like someone out there is gonna show me, maybe give some comment on something that I didn't think about as a religion, but could be interpreted as religion. That's the kind of comments I'm hoping for. I don't know. Like, I want to see some funny stuff from people, but we'll see.
I'm excited to see.
Yeah. So before we get to our callers, because it is time to take some calls, I have to give a quick shout out to the patrons. I want to thank everybody that donates to the Patreon. And as you know, every single week, somebody gets to be patron of the week. And this week's patron of the week is going to be, wait for it, Jason, just Jason. I love that. Thanks so much, Jason. And thank you to everybody that donates on the Patreon. You guys are awesome. And that's a funny thing about Patreon, because it can be like Kitty Assassin 998, or it can just be like Jason. Like,
Jason.
okay,
Just
yeah,
Jason.
I love that.
No frills.
No frills.
He's very serious.
All Jason.
He's a very
Yeah.
serious person.
Okay, so we have our first caller in queue here, and I need the caller to correct me here if it's either Levi or Levy. I'm not sure. I'm going to say Levi. Levi from Georgia wants to. Okay, thanks, Levi. Levi from Georgia, you're here to talk to us and wants to talk to us about your reasoning on why God is real. I'd love to hear it, Levi. Welcome to Truth Wanted.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. So there's a few points I want to bring up. I'm not sure like how long I'll get on here, but my reasoning is rather more of why God does exist rather than why he like does not exist. And so there's a couple of points I have brought up here, but are you ready for me to go ahead and explain them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, try to be as brief as you can, right? Remember, we got an audience here and, they want to be entertained here. Not saying that, you should be funny or anything, but just, as brief as you can will be great.
Okay, so, well, first, there's the order and complexity of the universe. So to keep it short, the universe's precise laws, gravity, electromagnetism, and fine-tuned constants, cosmological constants allow life to exist. The odds of this happening by chance are astronomically low, suggesting a purposeful, intelligent design.
Okay. We can start with that point if you want, because I already have some thoughts about that. Is that okay with you?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this idea, a common analogy to this is called the watchmaker's argument, right? And it's kind of this idea of like, wow, if you look at like a watch that's like on the sand, you would see that it has to be created because, we compare it against its surroundings, right? You don't just find a watch like on the sand by itself. It doesn't just be self-made. Somebody had to make that watch, right? But the thing with that analogy is we are comparing it to nature, right? Because we see a man-made object and we compare it to everything else. And so that's where that contrast happens. Now, when it comes to physical laws of the universe, we don't have anything to compare it to. Like that is nature within itself. Every one of our observations on probability, for example, included, come from those constants being there. So it can become sort of a self-referential thing. We can't even evaluate the odds of the constants being there without existing in a universe with those constants. So to me, that kind of argument is sort of a non-starter. It doesn't mean that God can't be real necessarily, but it does mean that it kind of evens things out. It doesn't really point one way or the other for me. Does that make sense?
It does. I was just thinking more of like how can everything come from nothing point of view, But there's a few more points that I have if you're willing.
Yeah, and we'll listen to that too. And I wanted Christina to jump in, but I will say to that point, right? When it comes to arguments from nothing, you could say the same thing about God, right? God isn't any more explainable than the universe coming from nothing. And I'm not saying I know where the universe comes from, okay? I'm not even saying it has to come from something specifically. It may just be what it is, but it doesn't give any more credence to God, right? Because God has the same exact issue at the end of the day. But Christina, you're nodding your head. You want to add to this?
Because it's like, I understand, right? The universe, when we look at nature, it is very intricate, right? It is very, it seems like there had to be something, a mind, an intelligent mind that created it. But then, okay, what created God? Like, where did God come from? And it's just filling in. It's just filling in the gaps of what we don't understand with something, because as humans, we feel the need to plug something in there to the space that we don't know. But like Dan said, you'll have God runs into the same issue.
Yeah.
Well, see, they say it's a paradox that the universe came from nothing and everything just exists because of a paradox or whatever it may be. But if you think about it, we should all just be sitting in a black void, non-existent, just nothing. Just nothing should.
Why? Why should we be?
Right?
Why?
Why should we be?
Yeah.
Why should we
Why
be
is it more likely
created,
that we would be in
or
a black void versus how we exist now? Tell me how we figure that out.
well, because simply, if you have no laws, no nothing, no rules, how anything reacts to anything, like let's say, you pour acid on a certain chemical, it makes another chemical, like that. Who made those rules? Why does that even exist? Why is that even a thing in my mind? And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, there has to be some sort of designer who made the rules, whether it be aliens, whether it be God, whether it be, a simulation we're living in. Not exactly sure, but
But
you
but that's just natural, isn't it? Like if you mix certain chemicals together, they have a reaction. That happens in nature. That doesn't speak to the mind of a god or anything like that. It doesn't
Yeah.
answer that question.
Yeah, I think to bolster Christina's point, we're seeing observations, right?
Yeah.
But we're not seeing intention or creation. We're just seeing observations. We're just seeing things as they are. It could be that things are the way they are because they're the way they are. There may not have to be a rhyme or reason, but I see evidence of things existing every day. I don't see that same evidence for God or his actions in that every day.
Okay. I mean, I get where you're coming from. I don't necessarily, agree with it, but, everybody has their own opinion and they're entitled to it. If I went down my family's testimonies of, how, lumps just completely disappeared, cancerous lumps completely disappeared from my family's, bodies, whatever it may be, after prayer. Now, of course, this is not solid evidence, but doctors have sat there and stated we have no idea how this happened.
Yeah.
There's things like that make me definitely question, when doctors go, okay, yeah, this was definitely not supposed to happen. You were supposed to have surgery, but instead it's completely gone. There's things like that, and
There isn't such.
you
I'm sorry. There isn't such thing as like spontaneous remission, right? So we know that there are certain things that your body can go into remission but when you're under treatment and things like that, I think we don't leave enough space for the like the logical conclusion or the logical entailment there. If they're undergoing treatment, if they're undergoing for whatever it is, even if it's not cancer, but like if it's another disease, that we act like there aren't medical professionals who are utilizing their skill and their education and working with our own bodies and medications to help help our bodies heal. We just give the glory of healing to God. And I think we leave a lot of space for God when the credit and should, if anything, go to those medical professionals and our own bodies for doing what we do.
Yeah. An organization, the Templeton Foundation, studied this, and they studied patients who were sick with, I believe it was cancer and other things. And they did a control group with people who were prayed for and who ostensibly weren't prayed for.
Talking about the Great Prayer Test, and it was after cardiology. Yeah, the Great Prayer study. That was based on heart patients with, I believe they had heart surgery. And yeah, it didn't really show any significant differences in the in the outcome. Actually, the people who weren't prayed for had a better outcome, unfortunately.
Right. And some of the speculation for that was because they felt that people who were being prayed for were under a kind of stress or pressure that was sort of unburdened for them, right? Now this is one study, and medical studies, have to, medical studies are the way they are for a reason. But it's interesting that you're knowledgeable of that, because I mean, again, we can point to all kinds of people who also have had spontaneous remission from cancer who ostensibly are atheists, ostensibly don't have people that are praying for them, and they seem to, get about as well as the same rate. The truth is, there's just a lot that we don't know about cancer and how it works. But the treatment that we do give to it, does work when it does, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure how that leads me to believe that a God is more or less real. If anything, it just kind of leads me to believe less, right?
Yeah, I see that. I mean, I definitely understand all points of the arguments, and honestly, I love everybody the same. Atheist or not atheist, everybody's a human being, and we should all show more love to each other. So, I mean,
I
I
appreciate
get what
that.
you mean.
Yeah, but so I
But
appreciate that you do. It sounds like you do understand it, but it sounds like you're not convinced by those arguments. I'm just curious, is there a reason why you don't find those arguments convincing?
well, there is a few things, and it's just I've had prayers answered in the right time. I mean, this is going off of just my heart, not even really scientific evidence, but I've researched, atheism. I've researched, because I've almost switched to atheism. I was like, well, why does anything even make sense, And so I've researched it, and all the research, scientific research. I don't just research the Bible or whatever, but every scientific and historical research that I've ever done, it always leads me to that, there is a maker, creator, a God. He is real. Whether we understand him or not, I've tried to be atheist, but whenever you think about things like improbability of life's biochemical assembly, the odds of a single functional protein forming by chance are about 1 in 10 over 164. For 150 amino acid chain from 20 amino acids with cells requiring 4,000 proteins, averaging 300 amino acids each, the total probability of life emerging from abiogenically drops to 1 in 10 over 282, far beyond the 10 over 80 atoms in the observable universe, making undirected chemical evolution statistically impossible. So,
Can I ask you a
there's
question?
things that I think about. What's that?
Christina?
Because you brought up a point about God answering your prayers in time. How has God? Have you ever prayed and God not answered?
I have, but I've had many prayers not answered by God. But I always say before my prayer, God, your will be done. And if it's not in his will, then I guess it won't happen. I don't know.
So, like, heads I win, tails you lose.
What's that?
So it's like, if it does happen, then God gets the glory. If it doesn't happen, then it's God's will, so God still gets the glory. How can you verify that any prayer is being answered at all?
Well, it's actually you cannot verify anything that God does. Now, whenever you pray to God, you have to come to God, with your heart, not a scientific study, not anything like that. You have to come to prayer with God by your heart. So there's no way I can prove that he's real. I can just prove how he's not real, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see it like it's interesting. So like you can't verify God at all, is what you're really telling me.
You cannot verify God at all. And I'm one believer who will sit here and speak very logical and very scientifically about it. I will not sugarcoat. I will say there's no way you can prove him, but you can prove that he's not who he says he is, that he's not there.
Yeah, I hear that. It sounds like you're convinced by arguments that claim the improbability for atheism, let's call it. I don't really like phrasing it that way, but that's how a lot of Christians tend to phrase it. So to borrow that phraseology, right? It's sort of like, well, these are the odds of God not being a thing, right? And you gave some examples of that with your interpretation of abiogenesis, among some other facts, right? And so I tend to, find that kind of curious because again, talking about probabilities is not something you can do in a vacuum, right? Especially when we're talking about the odds of, proteins folding or whatever, right? Like that doesn't, well, that entirely depends on the conditions in which something takes place, right? So the odds of a protein being created in my jar of peanut butter is not the same thing as it happening at the bottom of an ocean in hydrothermal vents, right? So, there's some differences I might have with you there, but I am kind of in Christina's line of thinking in the sense of if I can't really verify something, if it's like she put it, heads I win, tails you lose sort of situation, it seems that me not believing it will kind of give the same effects, right? So it almost seems like God is going to be there whether I'm acknowledging his existence or not, and nothing really changes otherwise. Like, just kind of seems like a static force of the universe, right? Like gravity.
Yeah, I can see that. But, at the same time, you have to ask yourself what made gravity. And gravity is supposedly a theory. Einstein said that mass bends space and time. So things just go around the space and time, warpage and things like that. So,
I guess I don't know why gravity has to be made. Why does it have to be created?
Well, and I don't know why it has to be created. But my response to that would be, why is it even there? Why?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I can't answer that. I don't think Christina can either, unless Christina has a doctorate in physics that I'm not aware of.
I promise you I do not.
Okay, yeah. I can't tell you that, but you seem to know why it's there, right? Like, and that's because of God. And
I have no idea why it's
well, you said it's because God made it, right?
Yeah, God made the laws of the universe is what I believe, because who else would make the laws of the universe?
Yeah, I think that's where we're at an impasse, because like, I don't think laws of the universe have to be made. I think they can just be there, or maybe there's some other reason, but I don't know why it has to be the Abrahamic God, Yahweh specifically, right? Like, there's nothing that I observe within the laws of physics that say, yes, the same God as Jesus, that guy, he's the one that, did all this. And, that checks out to me. That I have trouble making that connection.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Whenever you just think about it, logically, like, let's say your room was empty, right? And nobody ever came to that house. Nobody ever did anything to your room. Your room's just empty, right? And if there wasn't you involved, your room would always be empty. There would be no reason for anything to change. It would just be empty. So, that's kind of the thing I'm getting at.
But I don't know why we know that for a fact. In fact, from what I've read, and Lawrence Krauss, who's a problematic guy now, but he has a book about nothing, right? I think his book is about how can nothingness, how can everything come from nothing? And his argument is basically, well, nothingness is sort of unstable, right? And so it's this idea that even in the things that we think is space, there's even actually things happening in between particles, between what positive and negative energy can create, and how that the interactions just can exist even without matter being there, right? And so it's obviously above my pay grade, right? I'm not exactly the best person to tell you about it, but all I'm putting out there is that physicists have some ideas, right? It's not that they're completely clueless to it, but we don't have absolute ideas. And I think personally, Levi, I'd rather be in a space where I can say, well, I'm not sure, but there's a couple of different ideas, and I can figure out which idea wins best based on evidence, versus just kind of hitching my wagon to, I think God did it. And I don't know how he did it, but I know God did it. To me, that doesn't seem like that's the best path forward, because I still could be wrong about that, right? I'm still sort of hedging my bets on an assumption that, as you put it, you can't verify, right? Like, you can't really prove. So I don't know why I would go down that path.
Okay. Well, Well, look, you have nothing. You have nothing to lose if you are a Christian. Now, if you are atheist,
Well, I don't know if I agree with that
I
either.
beg to differ.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You're a Christian, you go to heaven. If you're not a Christian, then you get thrown into eternal damnation. So,
That's
Yeah.
Pascal's wager, but
Right.
the fact of the matter is this: do you really want to be in heaven with a guy that said, because you didn't want me to be your God, hell with you? Like, that's not a flex. I don't want to
well, he
sit like.
doesn't say that.
Say it one more time. I'm
He
sorry.
actually says that you will go to hell for a short time, not even a short time,
For
but
all of
then you will be
eternity.
cast into the lake of fire, and you
Even
will
worse.
see.
Yeah.
This argument is going in the wrong direction, friend. Because the fact of the matter is this, right? If for you to posit God as a loving God who wants a relationship with me and loves me so much that he's given me this option to choose, if I choose not to worship this God and the only other option is torture and punishment for eternity, then the fact of the matter is this God does not want a relationship with me. This God wants me to be obedient. This God wants a subject, someone to worship him, and that's just not something I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
I don't think that this God, if this God were to exist, this God is not a benevolent God. It's not a good God, right? So I would not worship this God if it were to exist. Especially when you say that the only other option outside of lovingly choosing him is to burn for all of eternity. That's not a God that I want to be associated with.
I mean, I understand that. Yeah, I honestly, I had the same argument myself in my mind. I was like, well, if God's gonna throw me in hell and make me torture for the rest of my life, how loving really is He?
Can I ask you if that's why is that? And I don't mean to come off rude, so I apologize if I do. Is that why?
No, you're fine.
You are in a relationship with Christ, with God, with this God? Are you afraid?
No, it's not that I'm afraid. It's just all the scientific and historical evidence. Like I said, I've researched being atheist before. And
Well,
there's just too
an
much
atheist is
evidence.
just a person who doesn't have a belief in a God or God. So when you say you've researched atheism, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. We don't have like a
I've
doctrine.
researched life without a God. I've researched if life is logically reasonable, without a God existing. And
So do you
all
think the science? Well, sorry to interrupt you, but do you think the scientists that research abiogenesis, they would come to your conclusion? They would say, yeah, actually, this life stuff doesn't make sense. Like, it's not reasonable for us to come from evolution. Like, because like
well,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, you go ahead. I apologize.
Well, I'm just saying because I've looked at what some of them have had to say, and they're pretty much on my side of the fence, which is, yeah, this has a source, right? That seems to be natural in origin. And every year they're picking together more and more of these pieces of how that works. And I agree with you, the picture is not complete, but it's more complete now than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. And you can actually look at the history of those ideas. And see how much more complete it's become since people have first started researching this decades ago. So when you say that you've researched if it's logical or not, I'm curious as to whose research you're looking at, because I don't know if it's the people who are actually doing the work and figuring this out, because they have a very different conclusion from you.
Well, you see, in the science world, a lot of scientists that they are proclaiming God or whatever, they'll get excommunicated from the scientist or science world, whatever you want to call it, science industry. Nobody will back them scientifically from them or anything. Yeah.
Do you have a source for that? I don't.
Yeah, I'm curious who's being excommunicated.
I can actually look it up right now, but I've seen many stories just of scientists in general claiming God and then being discredited by the science community. because
Well,
science is kind of like, hey, we believe in what came to be without God. Because if we believe in God, then I guess we're not full scientists. I'm not exactly sure what their thought process is on that, but
Yeah, I think that's something that you're positing. I don't know that to be I don't know that to be the case. In fact, if you have a source for that that proves that, then fine, right? But the thing about science is that science is a process. We are constantly learning new things and relearning and changing and evolving and watching how things evolve and constantly using our scientific method to research and understand the world around us. And it's such a down to a micro level. But when you speak about a God, your only evidence is faith itself. Faith is the evidence, right? So there's no evidence that would be required for you to believe in this God. In fact, to posit this belief, you really can't look for evidence, because faith, according to the text, is faith is the evidence, right? Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Faith is the evidence itself. So we could show you research and data and archaeological data and things like we could show you that all day long. At the end of the day, it boils down to your faith and your belief in a God, because there is no factual or objective evidence for him.
Well, yes. Now, if you mention things like regressing disease or whatever it may be. But first, let me mention one scientist who was pretty much excommunicated. Jonas Kepler was excommunicated. He was a pioneering astronomer.
Johannes Kepler?
Yeah, Johannes. Yep, that's correct.
Yes. Well, he was a lot of things.
God's design.
Yeah. He had a lot of different beliefs, actually. Like, he was into like astrology and some other kinds of stuff too. Like, it was more than just the God stuff that he had issues with on that. But to be honest with you, we are over time on this call than what we usually do. So I do need to start wrapping some things up here with you, Levi. What I will say is, I find it interesting. You seem to be convinced by the probability sort of arguments, whether something is more probable or not.
Very probable, yes.
Yeah, and I find that fascinating because, again, I don't know what the probability of a God existing and doing all of his stuff would be, so I'd be curious to know about that. I think your arguments kind of rely on the negative probability, which is like, oh, well, what's the likelihood that God didn't do these things, that it all happened through natural stuff? And I think if you look at what folks have been doing in abiogenesis research, you'd be surprised at the amount of explanations that are found within that science, especially today in 2025, and seeing how much we actually do know about the early periods of life and how we've got here to this point. Because they're not saying what you might be thinking that they're saying there. But I'm going to leave it at that because we do got to let you go, Levi. Thanks so much for calling in. I hope you can call in some other time. Yeah, have a great weekend.
I actually had a great time doing this, so thank you for having me.
Fantastic.
But, let me just say one last thing, and it's not that I'm, negative about the whole thing. It's just more of a logical sensing, like.
I hear you.
If there wasn't a God, then it's not even about life at this point. It's about the entire universe. Why do we even exist? Why are we even here? We shouldn't be anything at all.
Well, we got to take it one topic at a time, right? But, those are all great questions that I don't all know the answers to myself, to be honest with you. But I'm not convinced that Christianity necessarily gives you those answers either. But like I said, we got to let it go. Thanks again, Levi, for calling. Hope you can call in again at some other time. So that was an extended conversation, but I thought that was pretty good. What'd you think, Christina?
I enjoyed the conversation. I really do. And I can't say that I get it, right? Because I honestly just don't care. Like when people talk about like how we got here, but how did we get here? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mhm.
I know how I got here. I know how babies get here. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I don't care how the universe started. I had nothing to do. I wasn't there, right?
Mm.
And I think sometimes we harp on that to speak to like how almighty this God is
Mm.
in this belief. But when we drill, like when we try and make this practical, he's like nowhere to be found. So it's like he can do all this intricate detail in creating the universe, but he can't feed starving children. That's just,
Right. We talk so much about how the cancer remission occurred, and we don't talk about how much the cancer started in the first
right,
place,
right, right,
right?
right.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, it kind of cuts both ways, and
Mhm.
it always comes. I find the cancer stuff is funny because all the other diseases that we've figured out vaccines for or other, greater treatments for, that stuff, we can explain that. But the cancer stuff, now that's a mystery, right? And it's because, we're at the limits of our
Yeah,
scientific knowledge. That's why it's
right.
a mystery. That's why we think God's doing something with it. I don't know. Like, would a Christian think that they didn't get polio because God prevented it for them or because they got the polio vaccine? I don't know. Like at that point, it's right. It's a bit
Right.
trivial, but with
Yeah.
cancer, when there's only limited treatment options, right? Somehow God's in
Of
the
course
mix.
it was God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had to be.
Sure. I don't know, but a lot of different points. We can go down a bunch of rabbit holes with that conversation. I think it's
Yeah.
probably best that we move on
Yeah.
at this point. But before we keep moving on, just a reminder, folks, we still have open lines if you want to come talk to us. We want to talk to as many people as we can today. So please jump on into the queue and we'll be happy to talk with you. One extra point I want to make, if this is your first time watching us, hey, hello, thanks for watching us. Please, like and subscribe if you like the content, if you're watching this on YouTube. But if you're in the area, you should know that we do these shows in person, at least sometimes. When we're not doing it in person, we have watch parties that occur in person, and you can join those watch parties if you're in the Austin area. It's at the Free Thought Library on Sundays. The Free Thought Library is the main building for the atheist community of Austin. It is open to the public, and doors open at 11, and it is free every single Sunday. So go check that out if you want to hang out with some folks and watch some of our other shows that we make. Another way to support us is by sending super chats. If you send them our way, we will read them on the screen and get as many as we can in there. Of course, we also have Meetup if you want to follow us on our community events. And last but not least, I need to thank the awesome, amazing crew that help make the show happen every single week. So we're going to switch over to the crew cam and see, look at all these folks making it happen behind the scenes. Thank you, crew. And thank you to everybody that supports the show. You guys are amazing for that. For now, let's keep this moving. I want to talk to Lane, calling in from Louisiana. We are taking a hard turn here, Christina.
Oh goodness.
Lane wants to talk to us about the drones that happened last year. Do you remember this? There was a whole drone frenzy that was going on. Okay.
Yeah.
Told you this was a hard turn here. Lane, what about the drones do you want to talk to us about? Let's hear it.
Good evening, everyone. But so what I wanted to talk about was, it was around this time last year, the UFO communities started, catching on with there's drone sightings everywhere, mostly in the U.S. around coastal cities. And then everybody started to slowly realize that they were drones and stuff. And someone who was running for election was like, oh, once I get in there, I'm going to tell everybody what it is. And then, he got in there, and then I don't know if y'all remember, he just kind of came out and was like, oh, we know what that was. Don't worry about it. And then it just kind of died off. But it wasn't just the U.S. It was all over the Atlantic Ocean and some places in the Pacific. Like there was sightings in Lagos, there were sightings in the UK, there were sightings in Spain, all these different places. I mean, there was mostly in port cities. And so my theory is somebody lost a nuke. If you look where the drones were, so where these drones were flying, like if you look on the FAA website, you can see certain places that are no-fly zones. And there was a higher number of no-fly zones than usual during that time, like when all this was happening. And so that's just kind of, I think someone lost a nuke. It's happened before. It could have been Russia with the war in Ukraine, but that's just my theory.
So they lost a nuke, and they sent the drones.
Yeah, I'm a little lost on that too. How did the drones factor into that?
Okay, so it was Port City. I think that it was lost at sea. Nukes have been lost at sea before. In fact, that's how they found the wreck of the Titanic.
Okay, but like the drones, when that stuff was going on, it was like people living in cities that were seeing it. That like, yeah, they were port cities, but they weren't seeing it like over the ocean. They were seeing it like in between buildings and stuff, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, but if you find a nuke, where are you going to bring it?
Well, wait,
not to someone's backyard.
Yeah, and so what the drones were guarding the nukes? I'm a little confused. I'm being honest. I'm not trying to be like
the governments, the local governments of whatever country it was in were scanning around port cities looking for, suspicious activity during this time.
They were scanning for suspicious activity via drones.
Right.
Okay.
It's way cheaper than running like a reconnaissance craft.
Okay. So you think someone took the drone? Like was it stolen?
No.
Or took the nuke?
Owned by
someone took the nuke. You think someone took the nuke?
And you think that they were looking for it with drones?
It was recovered by someone. Right. But I think it was specifically, they were like monitoring areas just in case. And once again, I'm not 100% that it was at sea. It could have been, just somebody misplaced one because it's happened before. And they were like, all these local governments were just basically on a scramble to try to find this thing without telling us. But everyone noticed. It's like, oh crap, there's a bunch of drones flying around. What's going on?
Okay, that's an idea, Lane. I have an idea about what this could be. Now, when we talked about this, we talked about this a lot on the show, actually. There's a lot of people calling in about it during the events last year. I remember this, so I had to dig into this a little bit. And from what I remember, you're right. The FAA came out and said, hey, this is nothing to worry about or whatever, or we're looking into it, and nothing really came of it. It just kind of died away. I think that, Lane, this is an example of a little bit of mass hysteria. I think some people got some drones out and were flying it around, and somebody got confused, and people always get confused about what's going on in the sky. And then that encouraged some people to freak out online. And then some people saw those people freaking out online, and they're like, oh yeah, I have a drone. Maybe I should go and take it out tonight. Right. Or like, hey, let's freak some people out. Right. And it's kind of spurs more people on, kind of like a couple of years ago, remember like 10 years ago when everybody was talking about killer clowns, right? There was like a whole clown thing going on on the side of the road.
For that.
Yeah. So, I think something's happening similar here with the drones. Now, this is the first I've heard about drones appearing overseas, because as far as I remember, this was a mostly American phenomenon, but I wouldn't be surprised if other people kind of got the idea to take out their drones and people just saw them and got a little confused and a little hysterical.
I mean, that's totally possible. I don't know, that. My reason for the nuke thing is because of the no-fly zone specifically. But that's a perfectly so you have to remember, so the war in Ukraine is on the forefront of new warfare, and a lot of this new warfare entails drones. And so there has been a explosion, if you will, in a drone technology. And so, governments are going to use this, right? And I'm not saying the drones are aliens. I'm just saying something there was.
I would hope not. But that's a whole other direction. But right. I hear you. I'm listening.
Yeah, I'm just saying there was an influx, and I'm more suspicious about it, if you will.
Okay. Okay.
The nuke thing's probably a stretch, but I mean, if nothing else, it is something of a mass surveillance and testing thing by governments for sure.
Have they seen more drones? Like, are the drones gone?
Well, I think people are more used to them now.
Oh, but they're still around. Like, are there still drone sightings?
Yeah, well, I live in the largest city in Louisiana, and the local PD uses them.
Yeah.
So it's not like the mystery drones from last year.
Well, yeah. Well, it's because people didn't know what they were. Like I said, they started popping up, like really getting traction on the UFO forums at first.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, as it continued, everyone figured out that it was like, oh, these are drones.
Yeah. I remember this, Lane. I don't know if you were watching at the time, but again, we talked about this a lot when this happened last year, because it was all over the place. But yeah, I think this happens, and this happens in the UFO stuff before too, though, right? Where it's like, oh, suddenly there's a trending topic within the UFO stuff, specifically the drone stuff, because this was like especially hot, and suddenly people are looking up more, and now they're noticing drones that were probably there, but they didn't think were there, but as far as I've heard, and maybe you're seeing data, I'm not, but I didn't see a lot of hard data that suggested that there was any reports, official reports or otherwise, counting drones or giving a definitive answer as to like what was going on there, because videos are kind of anecdotal, right? Like you can get videos and
right.
It may seem like a lot, but it may be just the same number of drones. It's just more people are taking videos of them, right? So, you know how these things work, right? It gets kind of lost in the sauce a little bit,
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't start bringing nukes into it unless I had real good reason to believe it was nukes. I will say that,
I don't know, man. We've lost them before. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I know that that's a stretch, but weirder things have happened with.
I guess like you should have been. If people had their Geiger counters out and were like, "Hey, this place has more nuke stuff going on." I know that's not how it works, but
they did lose some nuclear material in Australia sometime last year.
Yeah, I can't tell you that. Now that one was aliens, actually. I think.
Was it in a backyard?
No, sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what else to tell you on this one, other than maybe it was Lost Nuke. I'm still sticking with this was kind of a social media event for the most part. I haven't seen much else to suggest otherwise, but I haven't looked into it since then.
But
yeah, I hear you. Elaine, anything else you want to add before we let you go?
No, I'll call back in and talk about dead internet theory. I got.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good one actually. That's one conversation we need to have. I would appreciate that.
For a while, and with AI, it's just becoming more and more obvious.
Okay, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about dead internet stuff, but maybe a different time we can talk about it, Elaine. Otherwise, I'll let you go right now, and you have a great rest of your Friday. Thanks so much for calling in. Really appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Goodbye, Elaine.
Yeah. So there you go.
Dead internet.
Yeah, you know about dead internet theory?
No.
So, well, it's kind of like popular culture has kind of ruined the original understanding of the idea. But the original idea is sort of like, well, when we go online, we can't really verify whether people that are posting are humans or not, right? As the growth of AI, becomes more and more sophisticated, it becomes harder to tell. And so we do have a lot of evidence that shows that bots are posting now more than ever. In fact, the last thing I saw was that we're getting close to about 50% of all content posted online being automatic or being by automated posts, right? So that can include like advanced stuff like AI chatbots, or it can include like, some other technology, but not like directly human. So dead internet theory is this idea that no, the internet is all becoming sort of just bots, and that we're not really talking to people at all. Like a lot of people that we know online are just not real people. And so that's kind of,
even the real people, are they real? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember when like Microsoft first released their first online Twitter bot, and she said some racist stuff, and they took it offline.
Get her out of there.
That? So.
She's got to go immediately.
Yeah, and so, but now it's like, oh, that's just all of Twitter now. So
no, that's not a bot. That's just Twitter.
That's true. Yeah. So there's definitely been evidence too. And, people have talked about Russian disinformation campaigns in the US using AI to post on posts, and to start arguments and stuff. And it's probably not just Russia too, right? So,
Oh yeah, all
Yeah.
kinds of. You see it all the time, just so dissension and things like that. It's a
Yeah.
tool. It's a tool, and I think we
Yeah.
need to remember that this is a tool. Like even when we get really excited for going about ChatGPT and different AI platforms and stuff like that, these are tools that can be used and manipulated, and they're learning based off of the information that is given to them. So,
This is a side tangent, but I was on Reddit and somebody was complaining about their mom kept sending them these videos of this Twitter account that was posting Ring camera footage of babies getting into dangerous situations. For example, one of them was a baby being left out in front of a bear, and a dad was putting a baby on top of an alligator to ride in front of this Ring camera. And of course, these sound outlandish because they were fake, right? They're AI generated videos. But of course, that he had to explain to the person's mom that doesn't know the difference. And it's wow, we're, of a generation where we're online every day, probably, if you're anything like me. So I'm better at it probably than the person that doesn't go online that often. But even then, it's still kind of hard sometimes.
Some of them still get me.
Yeah.
Some of them still, I was I should have known.
Yeah. What are we going to do in 5 years, 10 years from now? I don't know. We have to have some sort of policy to get that stuff figured out, right? How are we going to do it? I don't know. But again, changing course once again. We're flipping sales here, Christina. Bet you didn't expect the kind of calls.
I did not expect
getting so far.
the nuke drone alien.
Yeah.
call. That was fun.
Didn't expect that either, but that is the fun of Truth Wanted.
I still want to know, how did the nuke go missing?
Well, so he is right where we've lost armaments and stuff before.
Yeah.
Right. So that's been the thing. Which you'd think we wouldn't lose stuff, but apparently we do. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. That's for a history podcast. That's not this one. Moving on from that, let's get to John from Canada, who wants to talk to us. John, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hi, Dan. How are you?
John, I'm doing great. How can I help?
Before we start, I just want to introduce myself to your partner. Hello, Christina Carol.
Hi.
Wow, that's very, very formal of you. John's called into the show before. John,
Okay.
John used to be a Christian, and is now no longer Christian, and so he's been calling about that. And so, John, I think you want to talk about something in that same vein.
Yeah, I just want to know. Okay, I asked this. I'm generally asking out of genuine curiosity. But can you please explain homosexuality to me? Because I really do not get it.
Okay, so when you say explain homosexuality to you, that's a very broad topic. Do you mean how are human beings homosexual? Is that what you mean?
For the life of me, I just can't understand how two people of the same sex can be attracted to each other, especially to.
Well, that wouldn't be for you to understand, beloved, because you're not. If you're a heterosexual man who's attracted to a person of the opposite sex, you wouldn't understand. That's not for you to understand.
Yeah, I mean, if your brain's not wired that way, it's just not a feeling or an interest that you're going to have, right?
Yeah.
And truthfully, a lot of people who identify as gay, it's not 100% for them all the time. That's why we have a label of bisexuality, and there's other kinds of labels people have.
I can't, I can't speak to anyone else's mental scapes except my own. I can't help you understand that any more than I could help a gay man or a lesbian woman understand the feeling or the mind of someone who is heterosexual, a heterosexual cishet person.
Does that make sense, John?
I don't can't explain it, but I still don't understand completely. As a male, I just can't see myself being with another male. I just can't do it.
Right, and I don't expect you to be able to because you're not a gay man.
I mean, John, I'm assuming, John, I don't know your sexuality, right? And maybe that's something you're exploring for yourself. That's fine. I don't need to know your business. But like, I'm going to presume that you like women, or you have liked women in the past, right? Can you imagine explaining that to somebody and how
Right.
that works, right? Because to you, that just seems natural, right? That's just kind of the way it is. And for people who identify as gay, how they like people is just how they like people, right? It's just the way it is. There's nothing really to explain about it, right? It's just how they are.
I don't know how it's possible. Like, if I see a man who looks good, I'm gonna say, okay, that's a handsome man. I will say that. But for the life of me, I just don't feel like putting my hands on him.
And that's fine. It's not
Okay.
possible for you, right? But it's possible for other people, right?
Right.
I just want to know how that's possible. Like, you need a man, you need a male and a female to come together. It's just natural. It's just natural.
Oh, so you mean like evolutionarily how that's possible?
If that's the case.
Well, that's an interesting subject that's separate from this conversation, but like, to kind of give a bird's eye view on the topic, homosexuality is not something that's exclusive to people, right? It's important to point that out. We've observed that kind of behavior in all kinds of animals, birds, bees, you name it. It's been out there. And of course, nowadays you see it's more widely talked about, but that's always been observed. And studies that are older than both of us, right? So it happens, right? Why it happens, we may not know the intricacies of. People have different ideas of it, but it doesn't really matter on the why at this point, right? It's important to know that it does happen, right? When we're Christians, we tend to think of these things in terms of moral judgments because we want to know why things happen to see if it's like, a good or a bad thing. But it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just the way things are, right?
That's the thing.
Yeah. Speak to that, Christina.
It is just a thing, and like you said, we try to look at things through the lens of Christianity and try to make it make sense more morally based off of the morals of the Bible, and I think that is that is challenging in and of itself when we're talking about morality in the Bible, right? But it's not a I don't want to confuse the matter itself, but it's not something that you're going to understand, right? The sexuality of a person that it doesn't identify the same way that you identify, and you're not supposed to, right? But if you're looking at it from a moral standpoint, whether it's right or wrong or something like that, the Bible is used to demonize the members of the LGBTQIA plus community. But if you posit that, and I won't dive into the scriptures about whether this means this or this means that, but if you posit God to have created all things, then God created the members of the LGBTQIA plus community as well. And he created all things. And in that, he said that it was good. So I'm good as far as I'm concerned, with or without God. But I think you have to leave room for that.
If I was still a Christian, I would say that. I guess a Christian would say that homosexuality is a deviation of God's purpose, and that's the reason why He destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. But you just told me that animals are gay, which means that if that story is true, that means He killed the animals too, because they're sinners.
Yeah, that would be a Christian way of looking at it, and hopefully you see why that way is flawed, right? Do you see how that's flawed, or do you find that convincing still, John?
Well, a Christian would tell. I just now realized a contradiction. A Christian would say that humans and animals are two completely different creatures, and one is not the other. But
yes.
Yet but in the same breath, they're going to say that the animals are sinners just like humans. Like they want to have it both ways.
That's true, John. Yep. And something, and I know that you're still deconstructing, you're still figuring stuff out on all of this, but Christians tend to have a hierarchy in gender and also in their relationship with animals. So Christina alluded to this earlier, but men are basically, for all intents and purposes, above women in most respects when it comes to Christianity, right? Like they'll pretend like it's different, and they really are I'm sorry, they'll pretend like it's the same. They'll pretend like they're equal, but in all intents and purposes, they really aren't, right? And one of the reasons why Christianity demonizes homosexuality in the way that it does is because homosexuality actually challenges that norm in a very particular way, right? Because homosexuality challenges, by its nature, gender norms, specifically gender norms that Christianity has tried to enforce, right? And so when you realize, oh, a man can be with another man and they can be happy and be fine and be good people, or a woman can be with another woman in the same way, or there can be people in, poly relationships and also be fine, right? When you start to challenge that structure and that hierarchy, it delegitimizes Christianity, right? It delegitimizes them as an authority, right? As Christianity as being important to someone's life or somebody that they should be listening to, right? As a topic. And I'm talking about the church broadly, but I'm also talking about like Christianity culture, right? As like informing people's like worldview. So, that's why Christians harp on this stuff so much. And sometimes it's personal, right? And it really is bigotry. And sometimes I don't even think it's like a personal bigotry. I just think it's people perpetuating a structure of oppression
like divine order.
Yeah, that like they don't even realize that they're a part of, that they're supported. Does that make sense, John? I know I got a little heady there.
It does make sense. And like I said, if someone is gay, that's their business. I just find it weird. But as for men being ahead of women or above women, I agree with that. In a relationship, the man should be in charge. The woman is important, but the man should be the head of the household.
Oh, John. Okay, we still have some stuff we got to work on, my friend, because we can't leave you with that, right? Well, wait, can we talk about that? Why do you think a man should be in charge of a relationship with a woman?
Well, he's the stronger one. He's the one who takes the risks.
What does that mean? He's a strong one. He's the one who takes risks. We're not living in caves, John.
Is he going to hunt the bears?
John, I work from home. I sit in front of a computer for 8 hours a day, John. Like, what am I doing that's more important than what my wife's doing?
Deer, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan. Am I muted?
No, you're not muted. Go ahead.
Okay, Dan. If a war were to break out, I guarantee. Who do you think is going to go to war? It's going to be the men. They're going to be the ones that are going to defend this country from.
John, there's women serving in our military right now. Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah, but the men are the best suited to fight the war because we're made for that.
Okay, well let's talk less about the less suited. That's a whole other thing with its whole implications. I want to focus in on this. Men should be in charge of a relationship. Because let's say that's true. Let's say that men are just purpose built for war. What does that have to do with people's individual relationships?
Okay, here it is. You agree that if any two people are going to work together, decisions have to be made. There has to be a consensus, correct?
Yes. I do agree with it. You agree with that, Christina? I think
yes,
so.
I agree.
So if each person in the group wants to do their own thing, there'll be no consensus. Nothing will happen. Someone has to make the decision. That's why we have leaders. I know for a fact that in your organization, you have a leader, which is I'm assuming is Matt. So there has to be a leader. In a family, there has to be a leader. And it makes sense that the leader should be the man because he's the one, he's doing the hard work. He's bringing home the money. If there's a danger, he's the one that's going to go out and deal with it.
John.
There has to be an official head of the family. You can't have two people.
John, I'm going to have a secret. I'm going to tell you a secret.
But it has to be honest.
No. Just listen to me, John. I'm going to tell you a secret. You want to know a secret? My wife makes more money than I do. You know what? In the house that I'm living in right now,
you're actually admitting that on air, Dan.
I have nothing. Why would I have anything to be ashamed of, John?
It's okay.
Why would I live a great life? And and by the way, I'm not like and I know people who live this way too, and that's fine. I'm not a house husband. I work myself. We both work, but my wife makes more money than I do. In the house that I live in right now, I help pay for it, but it's in her name. The mortgage is in her name. I have no shame about that. Tell me, why should I be ashamed about that, John?
Because you're the man. You should be in charge.
Why? But
Because
John,
That's not a
I am
partnership.
incredibly happy with my relationship. Believe me, I love my wife. It's great. Why should I be ashamed of, or feel unhappy with the way things are?
Because what if she decides to take advantage of you?
But that's true. If I, that's
right.
what is that? I don't know. I'm talking a lot. Christina, go ahead.
No, I just, it's just this warped idea of what partnership is and what relationship is. And I can't help but tie it back to the fact that a lot of people who are believers in starting to deconstruct don't understand what a healthy relationship is, because they've been in a very vertical, one-sided relationship with this God who has told them that love is equal to obedience. And it's not, in fact, the case. A relationship and partnership and coming to a consensus and understanding and making decisions, those are partnership things. And when you're in a relationship, and just because someone is stronger at one thing, or that's nonsense, and it needs to, right along with this book, be tossed into the annals of history. And we need to move forward. We can't continue to keep going around this. It's 2025. Eggs are $1 million, right? Like, we are trying to work through it, and a lot of families are really just bunkering down and trying to make the best decisions they can for themselves. So if we're both working, right, I'm a single mother, right, I have 2 children. I'm a one-man band man.
You should have a partner, Christina. You need a partner. You need a male partner.
John, why does Christina need a male partner? Give me one good reason why.
Because she can't handle it all by herself. Plus,
John, okay, pardon my French. How the fuck do you know that? How the fuck you just met this? You don't even met this woman. You've heard her voice online for 10 minutes, and you already know her life situation. The fuck are you talking about, John?
Get you a man, Christina.
She just said she was a single partner. She just
yeah.
Said, that's all I know.
Yeah. Why? First of all, why is that your fucking business? Telling her how she should be living her life. But second of all, why does she need a man? Why? Why?
She was the one who mentioned it, Dan. She was the one.
But I didn't say that. No, I also didn't say that I needed a man, or I was looking for a man. Or when I said I'm a one-man band man, I meant that. I handle my bills. I take care of my children. I get them where they need to go. I take care. I have friendships. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. I'm a lot of things. I can do it all the fuck by myself. I don't need anyone to do a goddamn thing, right? Mm-hmm. Would I like some help? Listen, I'm taking applications if you want to just. Anyway, but seriously, I don't need a man to make me happy, to make me money, to make me food, to make me anything, right? If I have a partner, that's one thing. But if I don't, I got this.
See, that's precisely that attitude that's destroying the American family.
Is it?
You might feel differently, Carol. A lot of women out there have been surveyed. They have careers, but they miss having a man and a family. They feel unfulfilled. Okay,
that's sad for those women. If you ask Christina, if you just heard her, sounds like she's doing just fine. Right? You're making a big generalization here.
She might change her mind, Dan. In 5 years, you might not feel the same.
And John, I really hope you change your mind in 5 years, or sooner than that, actually, because
that's a lot of it's like seething with misogyny, and I hate that for us. I hate that the patriarchy has is the way that it is. But
I hate this idea. I hate this idea of patriarchy. Men and women are partners. We should be working together. We make.
But John, what you described right now, yeah. What you described just now is not a partnership. You said a man should be in charge and make decisions regardless of, what other people think, which is not a partnership. That's not consenting. I don't need to be with my relationship with my wife. It doesn't have to be one person making all the decisions. We can make all of our decisions mutually, and that's fine. There's nothing man-centric about that.
Okay, and what if you want one thing and your wife wants the other? What are you gonna do?
Well, we figure it out, and that's life.
That's all it is. Life is a bunch of decisions that you have to make. If you have a partner, you're making them together. If you're by yourself, you're making them on your own. It's like this. We keep overcomplicating some of these things. Like, you're either going to work together or you're not. If you have a partner that supports you and y'all are growing together and it works out, great. If not, and you got the wrong partner, find another one. The fuck? Yeah.
And John, I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to say, well, wife, I'm the man, and therefore we need to go with what I'm going to do, because that's stupid. That's just dumb. That's not a good way to live life.
It's like if the wife is a tax accountant.
I'm going to tell you a secret. You told me a secret. Now I'm going to tell you a secret. Women, they secretly like it. They love it when a man takes charge. They've said that. They love it when,
John, yeah.
They love it when men take charge.
Yeah, John, you sound like you're real good with the ladies,
winner.
man. I'm sure they're all over you, dog. Like, yeah.
Just knocking down your door there.
I'm glad we agree, Dan. Anyway, I think I should
Yeah.
let you go because there are no speakers. But nice speaking with you.
I think that's a good idea, John. I'm going to let you go. Good luck in your relationships with people because you certainly need it. Okay. I hope you think about this conversation and realize this is not a good path.
Not it.
Geez.
Keep deconstructing, friend. Keep deconstructing.
Oh, John. Oh,
We've talked, Lord 2025. What is happening?
Well, we've talked to John several times, and I'm gonna be honest, Christina, we've made progress with John on other fronts. Obviously, he is not a Christian now. You heard him say it himself.
Right. But that's the other thing. I've had this conversation before too. Like people oftentimes when we talk about deconstructing, yes, people are deconstructing, but what are you deconstructing? How we said before earlier, why I say I'm still deconstructing because I have to constantly change my mind about things and really sit and evaluate things, investigate my own biases and things like that. But some people aren't. Some people are only deconstructing the text itself and trying to figure out that aspect of it. And so I often say that there are a lot of atheist bigots. There are a lot of atheist misogynists. There are a lot of atheist homophobes. There are a lot of them. And until we recognize that our lens is skewed and we need to really reevaluate everything, just first determine, is this really how I feel about it? And if you are that person, then fine, be that person. But deconstruct, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this isn't the only problematic ideas I've talked about with John here. And John, if you're still listening, I know you've made some progress on some other stuff and I'm happy for you there, but this is one that's got to go sooner rather than later, man, because that's affecting your personal life. First of all, if you have that attitude with people, because people obviously don't like it. But I also would encourage you, if you're still listening, to think about what Christina is saying here, and especially in ties to patriarchy with Christianity as well. I alluded to this earlier, we both alluded to this, that Christianity enforces both implicitly and explicitly gender norms, right? And I think your worldview right now, I'm willing to bet the farm that it's because of Christianity more than anything else, based on what I know about you, John, and what we talked about before, because that's not something that happens in a vacuum. That comes from culture informing you about how you should feel about something and how you should think about something. But I know through my relationship with people that kind of thinking isn't great and is only going to be harmful in the end. And so I hope that you can kind of think about that and maybe reflect on that before we come back to it, because I'm not going to let anybody call in and tell my guests that they need to find a man. That's ridiculous. Holy shit, John.
I don't know why people see me. They're like, she needs a man. You know what her problem is? She needs a man. She's a nice girl. Very intelligent, but she needs a man.
Terrible. I think John needs to go talk to some people. Go see how that works in the real world and see what happens there. But anyway, Christina, thanks so much for being on today's show. Hope you had fun. Yeah. Great. Good. If people want to find you, where should they go?
Go to TikTok. I'm on TikTok Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm live. We have great conversations just like this all day. So make sure that you follow me there. I also have a podcast, I'll Take It From Here with Christina Carol, which kind of follows me through my deconstruction. I had different series where I do Bible stories and things like that, but it's growing, it's evolving, and we're just having a good time with it.
Awesome. Yes, go check that out if you want to see more of Christina and the stuff that she's doing. I want to give a special thank you again to everybody watching today. And we had a super chat earlier as well. I didn't get to read it, but maybe if Crew can put that out there again, I can put that up. Oh, it was from Crispin Sled, who gave 2 pounds and said meow. Thanks for the 2 pounds. Yeah, that's a fun one. I want to bring Kelly back on stage real quick and say thanks to Kelly. Thank you, Kelly, for being back up today. Appreciate you.
Thanks for letting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And what is our question again to remind folks?
For everybody to comment again, it is, what is the best sci-fi religion and why? Put the comments down below, not in the chat on the side, but down below, and we will read out the top 3 answers next week.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kelly, for that.
And can I just say something if John's still watching the show? John, you know how all men don't think the same? Not all women think the same too. And just keep that in mind. And when you're telling a woman how other women think and she's not agreeing with you, you might want to listen to that woman. Right. That's all. So just think about that.
Good words. And on that note, I like to leave our show with words of wisdom, and I like to give that opportunity to our guest to leave words of wisdom. So, Christina, do you have any words of wisdom to leave us with before we wrap up tonight's broadcast?
I do. I say this all the time, but the people that walk this earth with us, right, are always going to be far more important than anything over or under it, right? So often we get caught up in the God above us, right? As believers, they get caught up in the God above us that they don't care or don't have empathy for the people that walk the earth with them. And I think we need to shift our focus from this vertical relationship to a horizontal one, and then we'll be able to see a lot more change, growth, and evolution in our society.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for those words of wisdom. And thank you for being on the show today, folks. This has been another episode of Truth Wanted. I'm Objectively Dan. Remember to always keep wanting the truth, and we'll see you next time.
Watch the non-profits and join the hosts in the live chat. Visit tiny.cc/ytnp.